margins below 10%, losing a therapist to hospital systems, working 50 hours a week and bringing home even less than I did 5 years ago. I wasn't looking for another program. I wasn't looking for another vendor. I was looking for a way out. And then somebody mentioned to me, I think it was my clinical director at the time, she mentioned about remote therapeutic monitoring. She had gone to a Michigan Physical Therapy Association conference. And I almost ignored her, but I'm super glad that I didn't, right? And I want to be totally honest with you about where I started with RTM, because a lot of you are in the same place I was. You're having the same challenges and difficulties. And my first reaction was, I think I would label it as skepticism, right? You get paid for work you're already doing, right? That sounds like something you'd see in a late night infomercial. What is the saying? It's too good to be true, right? So I did what any other PT would do. I researched it. I called Medicare directly to verify the reimbursement. The biggest thing is I talked to other practice owners early in 2022 who were already doing this. And the more that I dug in, the more that I realized, this is real. This is legitimate. There's reasons why this is a good idea for the patient outcomes. And we were already doing, every single piece of it. And, we were creating home exercise programs. We were, monitoring the engagement level of the patient. We actually had created our own app for that years before RTM. I think it was 2017. We're texting and calling patients between visits. We're that one-on-one clinic with the high quality. That's our goal, right? And we're answering their questions. We're making those phone calls. We just weren't getting paid for it, any of it. And, the realization was, it was genuinely frustrating, right? Not at RTM, but I guess at myself for not knowing about this sooner. I think it took us about 6 months into the first year to really recognize that it was a good opportunity, and then 12 months before we implemented it. And now we look back and we've added 40,000 a month in revenue just for RTM. Our margins went from 8% to 20%. So that gave me the ability to give my staff raises, and raises I hadn't been able to give in 2 years because of that, and the declining reimbursement. And so I stopped thinking about selling and started thinking about expanding, right? I think it's a big deal for me, at least. We recently just bought a new building and remodeled it. And so all these things wouldn't be possible. And the thing that still gets me is we didn't see a single additional patient do this, right? It's the same patients, the same providers, the same clinic work that we were doing, already. We just started getting paid for the things that we were already doing as a high quality organization. And so I wrote this guide, because I wish somebody would have handed it to me 2 or 3 years ago and said, look, here you go. This is the playbook. I wanted to write something that was honest, not a marketing brochure, not a pitch deck, but really a real practical guide from a practicing PT who's had success with implementing RTM to other practice owners, managers, clinical directors. And in my opinion, it covers everything I've come across in the last 3.5 years. It talks about what RTM actually is in plain English, not just billing jargon. It talks about how the reimbursement works, which insurance plans cover it, what CPT codes, you're supposed to be billing, and what are the rules around those, and how much can you realistically expect to add to your practice, right? Realistically, not overblown, big promises. Really focusing on how implementation actually works week by week. We do that now, helping other practices. So what your staff needs to be doing, what the patient's experience looks like, the objections that I had, the fears that I had, and then really what actually happened versus what I was afraid would happen. And so in this guide, I don't hold anything back. It's if there's a downside, I tell you about it. If there's something that was harder than I expected, I tell you about it. Because I'm not trying to sell you something in this guide that is, unrealistic. I'm really just trying to give you the information that I wish I had when I started this, that I am now successful with, but it didn't exist. There was no guide, right? And so, I want to be totally clear about, who this guide is for and who it isn't for. This is really going to be for the practice owners, who are, frustrated, right? Maybe they've watched their margins decline, over the years. That's pretty much all of us, and you're tired of working harder for less. It's for PTs who've heard about RTM, but maybe they're not quite really sure yet. They don't understand how to go about it, how it works. maybe you aren't sure if it's legitimate or if it's going to add a ton of work to your staff and you're kind of nervous about it because it's change. It's for the practice owner who really want to make a real informed decision, not one that's based on like your EMR company hounding you, another vendor hounding you to, buy their product and implement RTM. And if that's you, this guide is totally free. There's no credit card. There's no trial. There's no sales call required to download it. You just get it for free. Read it. It's like 27 pages. I spent a lot of time on it. And all you have to do is go to the link in the description of this video, and then I'll send you an email with it. And, it's great. I think I spent a lot of time on it, and I think it'll take you about an hour to read it. And by the time you're done, you should be, you'll know everything that I went through, everything you need to know to decide whether or not RTM makes sense for your practice. And if it does, what are the steps that you need to go through and the decisions you need to make and the knowledge you need to understand in order to do this the right way, not only for your staff to have a good experience, but also for your patients to have a good experience. And 2 years ago, I was looking for a way out of practice, right? I'd spent years building, and RTM gave me a reason to stay, right? It's been a game changer. And so I hope this guide does the same for you. The link is in the description. It's free. Just go grab it. And if you have any questions after you read it, obviously you can reach out to me directly, whether it's email or phone call or our website. We can do a demo request, like a Zoom call. Again, I'm a practicing physical therapist. My name is Dr. Andrew Grecki, and I check my messages on all this stuff. So, I'm happy to talk with you and share with you my experience. And hopefully I see you in the next video.